Hello, Marnie.
Hey, Jason, good to see you.
Yep, and good to see everybody out there. Actually,
Hello, everybody.
really can't see them, but we'll just be.
We're visualizing that there's a lot of people that we're reaching, and so we're so excited that we can be back with you all.
Back from we've been lucky we've had a week off of work, haven't we? This is our first Monday back at it again, kind of the new normal, whatever that feels like, right? Kind of things are different, and yeah, it's you know, how many times have we said that things are different, but today's a different Monday than it was last Monday, right?
Mhm.
You
I
know.
think like we are progressively trying to make sense of what this is or what this is going to be, right? It's truly learning every day and growing every day and figuring out sort of what's next because there's so much unpredictability in everything really in our world, and so trying to create that sense of routine and sense of a new normal, that's a struggle. I think an ongoing struggle. I think we have periods of time where maybe we think, yeah, you know, I've got this, I am figuring this out, and then all of a sudden, you know, you can become very overwhelmed again at all of the things that are going on around us that just are so unfamiliar to what our lives were prior to, like, I don't even know how many weeks ago now since this all really you know, escalated into this significant shift for everybody. It's really surreal, honestly, what our lives look like now.
Or what we look like, right?
Or what we look like. Yeah, like actually, as you know, that's the one negative thing about Zoom is like you're literally forced to look at yourself. And I know like we've talked a lot about like self-care. But you know, when you think about like, and that's like sort of that emotional, physical self-care, but like things like a haircut, right? Like things that you didn't really even think about that you just did. And now all of a sudden that isn't an option, right? Unless you start cutting your own hair or learning how to braid.
Well, I was talking to my family and we were wondering, I was saying, should I do a ponytail or should I start with a man bun? Because that's coming pretty soon.
I think the man bun, Jason.
The man bun. Oh,
Oh, that I think that might work. Or you could do like if it got long enough, we could do like a Star Wars themed. You could kind of channel Princess Leia. You could do two buns on each side. That might be something to think about.
you know, I guess a couple more weeks we might be seriously talking about that, eh?
You never know.
But it's kind of like, you know, those things are so common that we don't think about them very much, do they? But it's
No.
part about us sort of trying to figure out where we are, and you know, you get up and you comb your hair, you get ready for the day, but it, you know, I'm starting to having to feel what it's like to have more hair on my head. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but then, you know, I guess the positive part about that is like you're just learning to be sort of in your own skin and in your body, in the physical space that you are. And it's trying to sort of be in the moment. I think that it's so easy to get really overwhelmed when we really start to think about either what we've lost or where are we going, when will this end, what will this look like. And I think really learning to try to figure out how to be in the moment is really important
So
because
we've and we've kind of touched upon some of those things, but you're right. So it's really about focusing and grounding on where we are at this particular time as we are, right? Not
Mhm.
were or where we're going to be, but it's how are we right now where we are, grounding ourselves in this moment that I think is really important, isn't it?
It is, and I think grounding is something that would be something that we would really that tool or that skill would be something we would utilize often when we were supporting the students in our schools, right? As counselors, I know that we would utilize grounding as a really important way of coping with feeling really overwhelmed or really anxious.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, grounding's helpful because it really helps you to manage those spirals that we can have of those overwhelming feelings of worry, anxiety, you know.
Mhm. So on when our last conversation, when we talked about gratitude and we the rock, and how I sort of changed this rock into be something that was more rigid, and now I find it more fluid with those words on it. This
Mm-hmm.
is actually something that I use to ground me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm holding it now, and I can actually feel the texture of those words on this rock, and it helps me sort of to focus where I'm at, because I'm actually holding it, and
Right.
it's reminding me that I'm physically here now, and that
Right. And so grounding really brings your focus back to what's happening in the moment, right? So it's basically redirecting those thoughts, especially when they spiral and we become very, very overwhelmed and anxious, because those thoughts actually like make us feel differently, right? Like, so if we have a negative thought or a worrying thought or an overwhelming thought, we have that physical response, right? Our heart starts beating faster, our breathing increases, like we can be tensing physically in our body, and then it almost like sort of perpetuates that cycle of being really emotionally and physically overwhelmed. And so if we can use grounding as a way to redirect our thinking to the here and now, right? Sort of being in our physical body, in the physical space that we're in, that can have an extremely calming effect on our nervous system, on our whole way of being able to be in that moment instead of being stuck in our head per se, right?
that also makes us present to the people that are around us too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
When my grandkids are over and I'm being grounded by my cell phone, right? And
yeah.
I'm not really present with them. I'm there in the same room, but I have something. My mind has two things it's focusing on. But when I can put the cell phone down, when I can sit down on the floor, and we can take out a puzzle, we can actually do it together. Then I'm much more present to them, and the experience is so much better, isn't it?
It is, and I guess we should really be cognizant of not using our cell phones to be that grounding tool. Like, don't use that like you would your stone, Jason, because I mean, typically, like you said, we become absorbed into our technology. And typically, what are we looking at? Maybe we're playing a game, maybe we're doing something kind of mindless, but often I know if I'm on my phone, either I'm looking, you know, at an email or I'm looking at a news feed, and often that can actually start that whole process of feeling emotionally overwhelmed, and then I have that physical response to my thoughts, and then all of a sudden you've created that spiral of worry. And so I
So
think figuring out how to ground ourselves and be in the moment is really imperative right now.
so you have a technique you use, right?
I have, like, there are several
There's
ground
lots, yeah.
techniques for sure. The one that I really like to use for myself or with the students that I would be working with was the 5-4-3-2-1. So again, it's like all around that hand, right? So if you think
Right.
about your hand, you think about your five senses. And this is a technique where you utilize those five senses in order to bring you back into the here and now. So do you want me to try it? Would you like to try it?
Oh, that'd be great.
So basically you need to sit comfortably in your chair, okay? Feet on the floor if you can, I think is best. I would like you to close your eyes, okay? And I want you to take a couple of deep breaths in, counting to 3, and then release. Do that a couple of times. It's just gonna kind of get you focusing on your breath instead of your thinking, okay? And so I'm gonna ask you now to open your eyes, and I'd like you to look around your room, and I'd like you to call out 5 things that you can see.
I see my computer, of course. There's a monitor over there. As I look around, this is my office, my art room. So I have a bunch of art supplies and stuff over there. Next to that, you can see there's another chair there. I see some pictures of my family behind me that are here to remind me of things. And I just see lots of trinkets and memorabilia stuff, I think.
So you could name even more than 5, really.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
on
This was
what you
pretty.
can see in the room, right? Okay, so that's really good. Next, I want you to think about 4 things that you can feel. So it could be things that are in your vicinity that you could touch. It could be your hair, right? As we were talking about how your hair is getting so long.
Yep.
It's 4 things that you can touch. And I want you to think about the texture of those things that you're touching. You can name what you're touching if you want, or you don't have to. But sometimes it helps to name them because then you're really focusing on that particular item.
Well, like my rock is right here in center. That's right in front of me. So
Mhm.
that's something, and it's really smooth. I like to touch. If I just reach down here, my dog is lying at my feet.
Mm,
So that is actually something where she grounds me quite a bit, actually.
absolutely.
And
Yes,
we've talked about that, and that's a texture, I think, and a sense
absolutely.
sure that responds. I have a bowl of old change here too. That sometimes it's fun to play with.
Yes.
I also have a piece of Velcro on my computer.
Okay, that would have a really neat texture
I'm
as well.
I really like that texture, and I'm often playing with it. Yeah.
Okay, so that was 4 things that you could feel. So next we're going to shift to our sense of hearing. So I'd like you to name out 3 things that you can hear. And I think what's really powerful about this sense is that often we're not quiet enough to even hear the noise that is happening around us or in our space. And there are noises. And so I think if we can be still and quiet and really focus on the things that we can hear and identify those 3 things that we might hear.
Well, I can hear my dog breathing. You can hear your dog snoring.
I was going to say, I can hear Lily is snoring quite loudly right now, actually.
You know what I hear when a car drives by? There's still a little crunching of the ice outside.
Okay, right.
Very much.
Okay, well, those were 3 things that you could hear, and it's a really good um, kind of process to go through is really listening, because often we're kind of thinking and we're noticing the thoughts in our head, but we're not really listening to things that are going on in the environment, right? So
Yeah.
then if we move down to, so we've done 5, 4, 3, now we're on 2. So I want you to think about 2 things that you can smell. Now, hopefully they're positive smells.
So like my bottle of glue is not a good thing.
We don't want to smell that. And I mean, this is where hygiene is really important too, right? So we need to think about what 2 things can we smell?
We made drums at school the last, and so the hide has a little smell to it still.
Yeah.
And that would be what's really close now. I think when I look, it's probably more a lot of the paint and stuff I have in my office that has more of a smell than anything else in here.
Right. And maybe this would be something if we were doing it outside to think about the things you could.
Yeah.
You needed to move around and actually physically smell something, in your space that you're in. That would be perfectly fine too. And then the last one is something that you can taste. And I often say that this is the time where we would move and you would take, a bite of something. Maybe it would be something very pleasing, whether it was chocolate or, oh yeah, see, you always have the peppermints, putting a peppermint in and actually really savoring and being mindful of the taste, right? And really enjoying and savoring that sensation of it being in your mouth and being able to feel that on your tongue and be able to have the burst of that flavor in your mouth. Peppermint in particular has a very grounding, regulating effect. And so you would end that exercise then again with some deep breaths, but it's something really easy to do. Like we had talked about the breathing. So it's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you can do it, you can do it very easily by yourself in any kind of environment. And it focuses you on getting out of the thoughts in your head and focusing on the here and now, what is happening here and now. That's a grounding technique that I really like. There are many others, but that
Tons, yeah.
one I really enjoy.
Well, and we know that the more you engage your senses, right, the more you engage all parts of your brain.
Yeah.
And then so you're telling every part of you to sort of be present, and engaging all those parts also helps you to regulate yourself. So,
Yeah, it really does.
okay, we hope that I guess everyone takes a moment and to grounds themselves today and this week. And just remember that we got to be in the present, we got to be in the now, and we got to think about the moments a little bit more and less about the future or what we want things to be like.
And it's back to that gratitude stone, right? If we can ground ourselves even through our feelings of thankfulness, right, and focusing on the things that we have, that bring us joy and really make us feel connected in a time of disconnection, I think that will really help us to get through the difficult times, because we're all going to have them, right? They're going to come and they're going to go. And so I think just figuring out how we can manage what we need and what we feel, at any given time, and just being, again, patient and gentle and kind to ourselves and others is going to help.
Awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
goodbye, everybody.
All right. See you again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.